fact or opinion, facts are weighed down with evidence, there's no argument, and facts stand up in court. Opinions are very personal, they're our own beliefs, arguable, changeable, emotional. We add our own meanings and opinions to the facts. And the opinions cause distress. Emotions drive opinions, opinions drive emotions. So as soon as you notice a distressing thought, ask, is that fact or opinion?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Listen to Pavarotti. Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And you know, there's been some really interesting developments here, even in the last few days, from some very sharp individuals covering this case. So what I want to do first of all, though, is I want to clarify, because I've given a lot of opinions here lately on what I believe is going to happen in this case, who I believe is the most trustworthy or not. A lot of people have problems with my opinions. And that's why I love the fact that my opinions will either be proven true or proven false here in about 3 months. And just so everybody knows, September 3rd is the day. I know I had one of my folks that's very sharp say that, no, it's not September 3rd. It's a year from the sentencing date. No, it's a year from 42 days past the sentencing date because since the Kohberger team did not file an appeal within the 42-day Garza v. Idaho window, then that 42 days acts as an appeal window and the clock starts ticking at the end of those 42 days. So it's September 3rd. So by September 3rd, if the defense team has not filed anything, well, Pav is going to have to come out and apologize to everybody for being wrong. And I'll be happy to do that. However, if something does happen before September 3rd, a lot of apologies need to come Pav's way. And that's what's cool about this thing is we can either be proven true or false in our assumptions and our opinions. But again, it's just my opinion. I mean, I could absolutely be wrong. I'm just basing it on all of the things that I see happening in this case that I've seen happening for a long time. And all the indications to me tell me the defense team that includes Bicca Barlow is still on the case. And there's no reason for them to still be on the case unless they were doing exactly what I figured they were doing the entire time, which was waiting for the leak investigation to complete and then withdraw the plea. And no, it would not be ineffective counsel in that case because his defense team would still be on the case. And the reason it's important for Bryan Kohberger to retain his current defense team is because if another attorney was to come on to the case at this point, guess what would happen? You would have at least 2 years before anything could happen because it would take them at least 2 years to become familiar with all of the facts of the case to even be able to do some lawyering on it. And that is essential. And if you look it up, you'll see that a lot of the arguments made for attorneys retaining their position as attorneys in a situation like this suggest that you keep the same attorneys because of their familiarity with the case. That's the last thing I'll say about that, because in this video, we're going to get into a lot more very interesting subjects, like 3 in particular, or 2 in particular, there's 3, that are definitive proof, facts that prove Bryan Kohberger is not the person that was involved in this crime. Yeah, I said it, facts that will prove that. And these facts come from a couple of very sharp people covering this case. One is little Bronxy Tales over there at, Logan over there at Bronx Tales. Found some absolutely compelling, very, very, very strong evidence that it is not Bryan Kohberger who committed this crime. And also Translucent. We'll have to applaud her. She did it for you, got a video that is mind-blowing and I believe definitive proof of the most important evidence in this case, which is not that knife sheath. The most important evidence in this case is the car, because as I will remind everybody, regardless of what you say about the knife sheath and everything around the knife sheath, the car is the most important evidence in the case. Because even if you could prove that the DNA on the knife sheath was Bryan Kohberger's, you have to put Bryan Kohberger in the area for Bryan Kohberger to have placed his DNA on the knife sheath the night of the crime. And to do that, you have to have the car. Because regardless of what these mainstream morons like to say about his location data and triangulate his phone location, they have never placed Bryan Kohberger within 20 miles of the King Road house during the night of the crime. His phone, as they say over and over, was off. So there is no phone location information that places Bryan Kohberger there. Their whole case comes down to the car. And we know that because even Judge Hippler denied alternate perpetrator defense because they did not have a car similar to the white car that you see on the video. The white car has always been the key to this. And we will prove by the end of this, thanks to Translucent, that the white car was not Bryan Kohberger's once again. As if proving that all the cars that they said was his couldn't have been his through all the other videos wasn't enough. We've got even more this time, folks. So great job, Bronx Tales. Great job, Translucent. And yeah, I'm going to point out some inconsistencies in Turvey and Whitcomb's statements on why they keep focusing on evidence that may not even be evidence in the case that everybody's stirred up about, and they seem to ignore the true evidence in the case, which is unknown male B, blood on the handrail, unknown male D, blood on the glove, and the L5 fingerprint, the most compelling piece of evidence in this entire case, because it was a bloody fingerprint on a rear sliding door that was the most investigated piece of evidence in the case. If you want to bring up some controversial subjects, why didn't you bring up the L5 fingerprint? No, you bring up the hair. So it may seem like I am giving my opinion and it's bashing Turvey and Whitcomb, and it's only because of things that you can go through and look at. And something doesn't add up with them. So I don't care if you think I'm bashing them and I'm wrong for that. Until they bring some real evidence, some real talk that has some real merit, I will continue to do it. And until then, I'm going to continue to prove Bryan Kohberger was not the perpetrator in this crime. And I believe keeping focus on the facts in this case, like a lot of people are doing, is the key to this case. Hold on to your hats, folks. You're going to learn some stuff in this one that you didn't already know. Let's roll. See, now here's the problem I have with what Whitcomb and Turvey is bringing up with this hair that was found in Ethan's hand versus other evidence that could have really just blown this thing just wide open. Because when we look at this spot right here and we see this hair, to me, this hair doesn't, I've said this before, it doesn't look blonde, but Whitcomb said, or Turvey says, oh yeah, it's blonde, light blonde, strawberry blonde hair and all this, as if he got it from the report. But I've studied the FBI reports, the only report that he could have seen, and it never lists anything about the characteristics of this hair. But here's what it does tell you. What it does tell you is that it doesn't match Bryan Kohberger. That's all it tells you. They didn't match it, try to compare it to any of the other people in the house. They didn't try to compare it to Xana. So, and there's nothing about color or morphology or anything about the hairs. So where did he get the color and all this from? Just from his eyeballs looking at it? I don't know, but I do know this. With what he's talking about, it can be easily inferred because this is Ethan's right hand. He said the hair was in when we look at the hair right there. And then when we go to the reports, coincidentally, Ethan's right hand seems to have more value than Ethan's left hand. Here's what I mean. When we go to forensic report number 3, we'll see the item number 6 is the right fingernail clippings from Ethan Chapin. 6.1, swab of right fingernail clippings from Ethan Chapin. And then item 7 is the left fingernail clippings from Ethan Chapin. The hand that he's talking about that's clenching the hair is the right hand of Ethan Chapin. So let's go to forensic report number 7. When we go to forensic report number 7 and we go to 7.1, which is the left hand of Ethan, it says items contained from item 7.1 is consistent with that obtained from the known reference sample of Ethan Chapin. So he's only got his own DNA under his left hand. But 6.1, his right hand, indicates a mixture of DNA. Xana Kernodle is a potential contributor. 19.4 septillion times more likely to be seen if it's Xana. So you've got a DNA report indicating that in Ethan's right hand, he's got Xana's DNA. In his left hand, he has nothing. So I believe the argument's going to be made pretty easily that that hand in Ethan's right hair, that hair is going to be from Xana Kernodle, which means that they're pointing out evidence that may not really even be evidence at all versus pointing out something of merit that could have really got some talk going that can't be verified, like this. Never once, and I hadn't finished the book, so if he does mention it, y'all let me know, but never once have I seen him mention the L5 fingerprint that was found with the use of amido black, which indicates a bloody fingerprint on the rear sliding door. Now, here's what I know about this, is they did go through the extra steps to compare this print, and they said it was a very good comparable print that was able to put it through the MBIS system. And guess what? Over 2 years, they tried to compare this print to Bryan Kohberger, totally excluded. He didn't create this print. But they also compared it to Jack Showalter, excluded him. Bethany excluded her. Jack Decor excluded him. Excluded Kaylee. They excluded Lyndon, Beck, and Josie. They excluded Dylan. They excluded Connor Chestnut. They excluded Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Hunter and Emily. They went through all the trouble to exclude not only everybody that was in the house, the number one suspect in the case, but also all the other suspects in the case. They tried to match to this fingerprint, and they couldn't match it to anybody. So bringing up a piece of evidence that's obviously from the crime that was not from Bryan Kohberger that they really did try to investigate, why is that not being talked about? Instead, it's this hair that I think you're going to easily infer is Xana's hair. Good grief. Now I've got to applaud Translucent for obtaining this video. Look at this at 12:31. We've got this white car. She's got FOIA request in for this thing. And look, it's going just like the other car was heading on Ridge Road. Look, same characteristics as the other car. 1256 going the same direction. There's no doubt. Looking at the features of this car, this is the same car that they see on Ridge Road that they claim is Kohberger's. But when I slow this thing down, I can tell that the rear of this vehicle does not have the rear reflectors like a 2015. Look at Kohberger's car here. You see the tail lights and you see the light over his license plate? He's got two separate lights over his license plate. This is the distinguishing factor that distinguishes Bryan Kohberger's car from all these cars that they say are Kohberger's. See those double tail, or right here. See the two lights over the rear license plate? The dot, 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 dot. That's the key. All right, let me show you what I mean here. So when we slow this down, this is actually Kohberger's car at 5:28:18 coming back from the park. All right, so see his rear tail lights? You've got the two tail light bulbs that are dot, dot, but then you've clearly got two separate license plate lights. See it? Dot on each side, dot, dot, and then you got the other two tail lights. So his car is a dot, 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 dot. And as it goes away, I mean, you can clearly see there's a separation between the light over his tail light, over his license plate. Now, when we go to this vehicle, the Translucent got the, look, here's an even better example. See it? There's two different license plate bulbs on each side. Makes his back of his vehicle go dot, 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 dot. Now, when we go to this vehicle that came through at 12 whatever that Translucent got the FOIA form, it is quite clearly the same vehicle they capture on this camera later on. And this is why the FBI thought this vehicle was a 2013. And this is why they probably didn't want anybody to see this. Great job, Translucent, because it clearly shows you what vehicle this is. There is no rear reflectors here or here. And you see this bottom, the way it comes up like this can only be a 2013 or 11 to 13, because it's this model that actually has this little indentation. The rear reflectors are up here in the gray. They're not on the side of the vehicle right here. But also, let me show you this. You see the rear tail light? It's got a solid light above, the rear license plate. It's got a solid light up here. This is why it gives the effect as it's going through the neighborhood of this all being one solid piece. I guess I got it wrong. It was probably this car. If this isn't an Elantra, this very well could be that Honda 3. But anyway, you see the tail light. It's got a solid light, not a dot like Kohberger's does on each side. And you can clearly see that as it goes. Solid light over the rear license plate, which gives a continuous look back here. And you can clearly see, not only does it not have rear reflectors up here like a 2014 to 16, this is specific to a 2011 to 13 Hyundai Elantra. No rear reflectors in this little insert. Let me show you. But when you look at the 14 to 16 like Kohberger's, you see this little area right here, and above it, you've got clear rear reflectors that are outside of this dark area that you would be able to see clearly that you don't see on that video. That video, you're seeing what you see right here, this dark area, and these reflectors are aimed, see, these are flat, so they reflect light a lot better than these. These are kind of aimed down a little bit, so that's why you're not seeing them show up in that video. But here is the key to all of this. I've been waiting for this. In Kohberger's car, as I showed you, there are clear lights. Here and here, you can clearly see the two lights that are clearly separate that light up the license plate. In the vehicle that we see in all the videos, it looks like a continuous light all the way across. There is not that dot feature. Kohberger's car does not have LED lights on the back. We've already gone through that. But the reason you see this solid feature back here is not because it has a different light system than this one, but it's because of this right here. Because it's got LED upgrades versus the factory halogen. The symptom, one car looks like a solid glowing white beam of light while the other shows two distinct dim yellow dots. The cause? Factory bulbs are dim. Yellow halogens that project two faint separate beams downward. If the owner upgraded to highly intense xenon white LED assemblies, the light output is so incredibly bright that the two beams completely flood the bumper and blend together into one solid continuous wash of white light. There is the final proof that that car in the neighborhood and that car you see in those videos can't be Kohberger's because he doesn't have an LED. He could not remove his light fixtures and change it to a regular halogen light as he's coming home at 5:20 versus the vehicle you see all night that has these LEDs here that make this look like a total solid flood. Great job, translucent. There's one. Members, you know, sometimes I wish I hadn't taught myself all this stuff. So I caught a little bit of, I forgot the show's name where, you know, Doggo and Logan and Typically Unique and the other gentlemen all talk. But I was watching it last night, and Logan brought up a point that almost made me lose sleep, and I've been working on it all day. So it's an excellent point, excellent observation, and it's about these patterns right here in Xana's room in the blood here. And I don't even know if she realizes how big these implications are, because I think she is absolutely onto something, and I thought she had it nailed until I looked at it just a little bit more. But I mean, she's definitely onto something. You can see this pattern right here, and this is one of the biggest, I mean, clues in the whole case that they spent a lot of time on, and we've spent a lot of time on. But she has really nailed something here. But let me show you why it's so huge, because this isn't just a pattern. This is underneath where, or at the very least, right up next to where Xana was found. You can see here's the big box where Xana's body was discovered, and that stain is right here. So either Xana is on top of it, or she is, I mean, right up next to it. So that is huge. See where it's at here? Well, it would be right here. So we know Xana's right here. So that's pretty big. That's a very important sample, I believe. And what's interesting is when you go through, whenever they put these tape measures here, it really gives us the ability to do some stuff. So I've been working on this thing all morning, and you've got these two circles here, one here and one here. And because they put the tape measure in here, and we can use the just shapes and stuff to be able to determine exactly the dimensions of everything in this. So the dimensions of this back circle is 3 inches. The dimension of the front circle is 1.5 inches. And then the total length from the end of this circle to the end of this circle is almost 8 inches at 7.95 inches. So that tells us a lot right there about this. And here's why. Because as I started going through, there's a lot of different shoes that have these circles on the bottom of them. And this is what Logan had pointed out with the Air Force Ones of Dylan's. And so I took the Air Force Ones and I thought, man, she may really have something here. And I go through and I take exactly the dimensions if this particular sole matched the 7.95 inches from outside circle to outside circle. And by doing that, I was able to extrapolate how big the shoe in the actual print would be based if it was this shoe. And the total length of the shoe is 11.5 inches, which equates to a women's size 12 or a men's size 10, if it was that shoe. So here is the image of Dylan's actual shoe showing these patterns. And without a tape measure, I can't tell you exactly the size of this shoe, but I put it into AI and asked them if this, based on these patterns, was this shoe consistent with a women's size 12? And it said it was. So I went, man, she may really have something here. But then I remembered that this was the same sample that they used the Amido black on to get Xana's toe prints. And you can see once they added the Amido black, it really made these patterns, very, very distinct. So when you have this pattern of this shoe, it's almost, you can just make it out perfectly. And then you look over here and you can see you can make this circle out perfectly. So there's no doubt in my mind, based on the size and the consistency of, you can see how this circle is almost perfectly centered with this circle. So this is one step of somebody with a shoe with these circular patterns. The only thing is, when I took Dylan's shoe, on the bottom of Dylan's shoe, the patterns are exactly the same size. This one and this one are exactly the same size. So when I look at these patterns, this big circle right here is twice the size of the small circle up here. So, well, I don't believe it's actually Dylan's shoe. I believe she is really onto something. It's a shoe that has a pattern almost very similar to this. Just the rear circle is going to be bigger, and the front circle is going to be half the size of the rear circle. And then we'll have a match of this shoe right here. So I've been looking, trying to find a shoe sole that is consistent with this, but with a smaller front circle. And I haven't been able to locate it yet, but I'm working on it now. And she's really got me, about to lose my mind on these shoes. A great observation. I think what we're actually going to be looking at is going to be an Adidas pair similar to this one right here. The only thing I'm not 1,000% comfortable of is the size of this front circle. I wish it was just a little bit bigger, but you're going to notice this model has these little circles here as well, and it does have a smaller circle on the heel of this shoe. So the size of it may actually come into play, but look at this. So when I try to match up the smaller circle on the heel of the shoe here and the larger circle on the front, it's pretty close. I wish this was just a little bit bigger, but then I take into account, look at these little ones here and watch this. So when you look in the Amido black and you've got these two, we've got a bunch of these little bitty circles here that are very, have a lot of conformity. Look, you have this one, and then you have this one over here. And when you start to put them together, these two could have been made at separate times. This one could have been made at separate times. So when I take the exact measurements of a shoe compared to these two, and then I start to try to compare it to these circles, and I take this Adidas model, and then I make it exactly, the size compared to these, and then I duplicate this image down here with these smaller ones. While these two here wouldn't line up, if you match up these two from this angle, excuse me, then it actually, when you draw a line through it, it matches up almost exactly to the size of these circles based on the size of this shoe. And if these two were made at the same time, then it would match up perfectly to the dimensions of those. So I think it's going to be something really close to this Adidas model right here. Let me know your thoughts. Now, what's interesting is every shoe that I try that has similar patterns, whether it be the Air Force Ones, the Adidas, they all seem to be very consistent in where the circles are on these shoes. And when I extrapolate out the shoe size from this print, regardless of the shoe that I'm using, I come up with the same thing every time. Total length of the shoe is 11.5 inches, which equates to a women's size 12 or a men's size 10, which somebody with an expert in shoe sizes and shoe forensics can easily put together an expert report proving that that is not Bryan Kohberger's shoe size that created those prints. So there's BAM number one. Then you've got the footprints in the snow. Now, I know a lot of people say, yeah, but we've seen social media and these footprints were already there, Pav. Well, I find that interesting. Maybe these were already there. These don't seem to be the ones that they were spending their time on, though. Because when you look at the ones that they actually were marking, they were looking at the ones that was following Murphy up the sideline right here, not necessarily the ones that were walking in the house. And those are the ones that you can clearly see the diamond tread pattern, just like you see outside Dylan's door. Where is that? Right here. See all these little perfect diamond treads, exact same shoe print that you're going to find outside Dylan's door. And as you go through and you look at the ones that they were really interested in, as you go down, these on the side that are all following Murphy's prints here. Isn't that something? All right, here's another one following Murphy's print. These are the ones that they were really focused on, following Murphy's print right here. There's Murphy's print right there. But then this is also the one that they measured. Pop the tape measure down. There's Murphy's. And when they pop this tape measure down, we find out this is a size 15 shoe. A size 15 shoe right here going with Murphy. So these may have already been there, but I believe they believe that those other ones weren't. And when you dive into its pattern on those other ones, you can clearly see the diamond tread as they're following Murphy up the hill. And that's a size 15. Now, I'm pretty sure that Bryan Kohberger doesn't wear a size 10 or 15. So those are two different shoe prints in the crime that you can eliminate from Bryan Kohberger have making those shoe prints. This case is a So say what you will about travesty. anything. Almost And every let us piece have of even more evidence in time. this We'll case, prove it I believe we can 1,800 other explain different away ways by the time quite something happens in this emphatically case. and prove it with actual science that wasn't Bryan Kohberger. Yet we will be attacked. I will be attacked over and over and over because I don't want to agree with people coming out with things that I don't believe are very impactful in this case. You know, when I hear a forensic expert that I know for a fact the defense had two crime scene recreationists, Brent Turvey and Matthew Nodal. And I'll be showing you a recently unsealed forensic report that we got in the last batch of unsealed documents that I hadn't had a chance to go over yet, which way back then, if you were watching my videos about a month ago, I said, in that video, I said, you know what, I think I'm probably going to disagree with Turvey too when all of his reports come out, not knowing that we were going to have a book and him come out and say the things he said because of what I was reading in that forensic report. Because it was clear to me that Turvey and Nodal had completely different interpretations of the crime scene. So I'll be going over that one with you because I hadn't had a chance to go over it with you yet. So there's a lot of things around this that make me go, But the main thing is when you have a freaking forensic crime scene recreation specialist that tries to tell me that the reason Xana was attacked in the kitchen is because she was going to get her food, and there's no evidence that Xana was in the kitchen spilling any food, but there's plenty of evidence in the bedroom. And then with this crime scene, I think it's pretty simple. You can take For example, if you were to go through all the evidence of this crime and you were to pretend Xana and Ethan's room didn't exist, then you would clearly see what happened with the crime with Kaylee and Maddie. There's not any blood stains from Xana and Ethan in the living room. The only stain from Ethan is going down the stairs where somebody swiped the banister. There isn't anything from Xana in the living room. So how can you say Xana was attacked in the living room if there isn't any blood to back it up? But more importantly, if you're saying the perpetrators who attacked Kaylee and Maddie and then had enough blood, you've said it many times, they were covered in blood from attacking them, and then you're suggesting that they smeared Maddie's blood all over the switchback stairs. You smeared Kaylee's blood all over the pong table, scattered Kaylee and Maddie's blood all over the half wall and the stairs. Yet you can't show me one piece of evidence that Kaylee and Maddie's blood ended up in Xana and Ethan's room? And then you want me to believe that the same people that attacked Kaylee and Maddie attacked Xana and Ethan when you can't produce one sample of blood of Kaylee and Maddie's in that room? How can you even come to these conclusions based on absolutely nothing? It's all belief, no facts. And that drives me insane, because not only that, if the perpetrators came through the door on the second floor and left it open, went upstairs and attacked Maddie and Kaylee, then you've got Xana walking into the kitchen to get her food, and they're coming down and confronting Xana in the kitchen. Well, don't you think Xana would have noticed the rear sliding door was wide open as she was getting her food, and she probably wouldn't have just made her plate all casually and then ran to her bedroom with it? Give me a break. There's so many holes in that story. It's like Swiss cheese. And you're an expert, and y'all gonna get on me for not following that evidence? Maybe you should look harder into the evidence if that's the case. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.